I am Carla Horn, Chair. Town Manager, Bill Warren.
Good afternoon.
And Recording Clerk, Karen Mendry. We have two items on the workshop agenda this afternoon. The first one is W15-5, Personnel Policy. Bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you're aware, this has been a multi-year process going and revising our personnel policy manual. And the last time that you saw this before you, there were a couple items that were identified that needed updating or correcting, and it was also discussed that it would be then reviewed again by the department heads for final comments, and you would see a final version on it. And what you have in front of you is basically the final version. As we discussed at the last time, the goal here would be to now, if the board is agreeable to this, roll this out to the departments and the employees so they can look at it, comment on it, and then at some point you would have a public hearing to adopt it. And just so you're aware, I mean, I will run through it if you'd like again, but I can tell you that the majority of the changes in this personnel policy manual relate to updating language. One that you may recognize right away is that we used to have a holiday called Fasting. We don't have it any longer. It's now Civil Rights Day. There are updates to policies and procedures that have to do with law, the section on employment at will, equal employment opportunity, Americans with Disability Act, our harassment policy, immigration compliance, and then when you move through, we have updated some items to adjust what we actually do in employee classifications, recruitment, selection, opportunity, and evaluation. Compensation and hours of work is pretty much the same, except our pay period changed from when the original policy was done. Time away from work and other benefits, any changes that were made there were made in reference to law, specifically the sections on military leave and crime victim leave. There is also language in there for a safety personnel leave that is part of the law now. And there is language regarding workers' compensation and unemployment insurance that reflects the law. There is also a section that we did not have prior on Section 5 on the job, Chapter 5. And this is issues such as attendance, confidentiality, use of town equipment, cell phones, portable communication devices. I just found a grammar one, Peter. Actually, it was a spelling.
Oh, I didn't find it.
Yeah, 5 on the job. We misspelled information because it's all caps. We didn't catch it. So we will fix that. Social network and blogs postings, which we never had before, of course.
Exactly.
And then Code of Professional Conduct and Ethics and Conflict of Interest. That's in that section too. Employee safety and health. That's, again, any changes in there were based on law. And that's pretty much it. If I remember correctly, the items that were of emphasis when this got started a while ago was that, A, there were a lot of items, sections we were out of compliance with because the language had updated, of course. Family Medical Leave Act, items such as that. And then 2, we did not have any type of, in our old personnel policy, we had it, but it wasn't a firm one, Code of Professional Conducts and Ethics in the Conflict of Interest sections. And that were the two items, excuse me, that most of the feedback I received on when I spoke with individual board members as to what they would like to see in the personnel policy. Again, I'll review the process that we used. We worked with our Labor Council to update what we had, to bring it up to standard, and to include items that had been commented on prior by board members. When it was completed, it then went through 2 more reviews with our Labor Council to ensure that it was in compliance with any relevant state, federal laws, case laws, and regulations. It went to the department heads twice for that review. The last one being the last time you saw it, and it is now back in front of you. And the process would be that if the board was agreeable with it as is, it would then be given to the employees to review, comment on, and then a public hearing would be held, public hearing, excuse me, would be held on its inception.
Peter?
Madam Chairman, It does appear, though, you know, that there's a lot of content in here and a lot of specific, like for instance, on the medical benefit plan, you know, for employees after September 1st, 2011 going forward. I guess my one question would be, now that a lot of this, you know, even family leave, I mean, the language, a lot of it's required language, and I'm assuming there's probably going to be lots of changes over time. What's the process that you're going to employ for amending as either regulatory changes come into play or we have specific changes that, you know, that we want to include?
I think what we'll do is that we will amend it as needed. The HR coordinator / executive assistant is very current on all of the rules, laws, and regulations that apply, and very quickly brings to our attention when there is something that has changed in a regulatory fashion. So I think the best way to correct this would be to employ a as-needed strategy when we're aware of a law change. Once this whole policy is accepted, bring it back to the board and say we have to amend the section on Family Medical Leave Act because of changes in the law, and here's the new one. And then it would be, at that point, it wouldn't require a hearing, in my opinion. There is no requirement for a hearing on this. If I remember correctly, there was a discussion way back when that we would have a hearing because of the changes that are being made. But I don't think at that point you would have a hearing every time there's a regulatory change. You would just make the change. Accordingly, if
that was really the intent behind it, because I said it noted that the changes had to be done by the selectmen in writing and all those kinds of things. So I was just trying to figure out, was there a better way to amend administratively when it was statutory, you know, language changes?
Well, what we could do is, it could be a simple board vote, Peter. It wouldn't have to be, you know, the hearing process and the review process we're going through now. I don't know what the board's feeling is, but I know from an employee standpoint, I would say, me being an employee of the town also, it's a good check and balance to have the whole policy acted on by the select board, and even pieces of it acted on by the select board. It doesn't mean that that action couldn't be a simple discussion at a meeting and a vote, because it's not a material difference to an employee, it's just keeping it relevant with the law.
Okay. One follow-up question, if I may. As we get a little more specific in terms of some of the holidays and those types of items, we've also been in deliberations with the library, and we're administratively providing some services for them. Are they going to get a chance to have this sent to them for just their review so they can see what the town of Meredith is doing? I think at some point in time it's going to obviously have to be dealt with because it may end up being a conflict for you as the administrative chief in terms of basically administering and enforcing of the personnel policy. But I just think it would be good to make sure that just like they sent us their policy, it means you're going to have to perhaps be keeping track of two different policies, and until that hopefully is resolved at some point in time in the future.
But talking about the library policy, we actually had a conference call with the attorney, with our labor council, and we were expecting, I think I had updated the board on this, we were expecting some return correspondence. We haven't gotten it yet. I expect it within a week, if not sooner, that states what can be done and what the concerns are with having two policies. But yes, we had always intended to send it to all employees, even the library employees.
Okay.
So they will get a copy.
No, I just think it represents a lot of time and a lot of effort, and twice you said that Labor Council has looked at the draft and the redraft, and that was one of the questions I had, just to make sure, because from my standpoint, I thought it was easier to read than even our existing one. Some of the words are a little more specific, and so it makes it easier, I think, to probably implement from your perspective.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
And you're aware, it's the Labor Council that we've had in the past, Attorney Groff.
Yep.
He,
A lot of confidence in that.
yeah, and it makes sense that you use the same attorney that will probably be involved on the other end of it if, God forbid, something has to be adjudicated due to this policy.
How is that going to work, Phil, with, as far as the board changing at this point during the workshop? We won't be voting on this today, so how is that going to work as far as a new board coming in and they're just going to have to approve based on the fact that we verbally approved it? Or how's that going to happen?
Okay, my wise guy answer.
Take notes.
My wise guy answer is going to be, if I could figure that out, I wouldn't be sitting here. The practical answer is that the continuation of work goes on. If the new board so chooses to change track in this, then so be it, and we'll change track. But if this board authorizes me to roll it out today to the employees, and I'm going to proceed in that fashion until directed otherwise.
Madam Chairman, I too thought of that to some degree, but I mean, bear in mind, there's been changes over the years. When this process started, there was probably maybe a couple that weren't on the board at that time. So even though we're going to go through a public hearing because it's more of a complete revamp versus just partial amendments, and so it probably makes sense to do that. But I mean, there's parts of the institution. I mean, this town is going to continue to operate and have influence by our town manager and council. So I mean, it's going to be, that part's going to be consistent. You know, it kind of comes with the territory. I mean, it'll be like we'll be having a budget approved, and you and I will not be implementing that, but several others who will be you know, elected and or appointed. You know, I mean, so I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's going to flow through. They had a significant issue with it or anything else, they could always bring it back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carl.
Okay.
Sorry, Carl, I couldn't help it.
That's a unique situation.
Yes, it is.
Okay, next item. Any other comments before I go on?
Yeah, and if, Madam Chair, if I could, if there's no concern from the board members, I'd like to proceed and roll it out to the employees at this point for comment. Leave it open for a period and then schedule a public hearing.
Good for that?
And Madam Chairman, I just had one other final comment. As most of us know here, this was one of the goals that we had worked with the town manager, was to revise this. So I want to make sure that it gets all the attention and all the appropriate thanks for rolling this out, because it has taken considerable effort by a lot of different people, and staff time, departments time, administrative time, and legal time. So I just want to make sure that everybody here understands that it was you know, it was a major rewrite, and a considerable amount of resources was devoted for it. So I want to thank Phil and his team.
So noted.
Thank you, and I would like to stress, Peter, you said in the team, it was a team effort, as I explained earlier. From my office and from the department heads, there's been a considerable amount of time spent on this, talking about it and reviewing it.
Anything else on that item?
No, the only question I would have is, with a new board coming on, could we have probably a couple months to get our feet wet before we have to get into this? Would it be that long?
I was thinking about a 60-day period to have employees review it and questions get answered, because I expect there's going to be some concerns, positive concerns along the way, because it does not look like the table of contents of the personnel policy they have today. Okay. And as Peter said, it is a pretty good-sized document, so questions are going to come up. And I'm sure there's going to be some edits that will be proposed before that public hearing too.
Okay, thank you.
The newly elected board members will have quite a bit of reading to do their first 2 weeks. Moving on to the next item, W15-6, safety manual update. Phil?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had hoped that Dan Leonard, who is the chair of the Safety Committee and our Water and Sewer Superintendent, would be here tonight, but unfortunately he is unable to make it. So I told him I would fill in his place to discuss this matter. The Safety Committee, through no small efforts of Dan Leonard, has come up with these new proposed, or actually it's a Joint Loss Management Committee Safety Manual. While we had a very comprehensive safety manual in the past, as you have heard me talk about the personnel policy, the landscape has changed as it relates to joint loss safety committees and what is required. So again, this is a complete table of contents change from what we had formerly as a safety manual. And I will tell you that Dan Leonard had done some research, had other members of the committee, to come up with this safety manual that is taken from the relevant laws and regulations and from other organizations that have a safety manual. And it basically spells out what the safety program is, what the Joint Loss Management Committee does, and the duties and responsibilities, departmental safety program activities, which spell out safety meetings, training programs, and what the safety committee does, reporting of injury, job injuries, fundamentals of incident prevention, handling of injuries, incident reporting and investigation of incidents, use of motor vehicles, hazard communication programs, safety inspections, and then there is a whole list of general safety practices that are taken from the labor regulations, and I will not read them all, but they include items such as abrasive blasting, abrasive grinding, aerial lifts, air tools. You can pretty much get the idea of what they are. It lists every function of what is done. And those are taken directly from the state regulations. And then there's an appendix about a safety orientation form and employee safety responsibilities, incident reports, and a confined space permit. All I can tell you is about this is it is a complete safety manual. It touches on all items of operation and of concern as they relate to the Joint Loss Management Committee and our safety program as a whole. This again would require just a vote of the Select Board to accept it. I would be asking at a future meeting in the not too distant future, so we stay in compliance, that the board accept it. But as I had said earlier, there are no surprises in here. It's pretty straightforward stuff.
Phil, could you just brief me a little bit on the committee itself and how that's formed and how often they meet? Or...
Sure. Under RSA 281-A:64 and State Labor Regulations 600, every employer is required to have a Joint Loss Management Committee that consists of equal numbers of representatives from labor and management, and they have to meet on a periodic basis. And in our case, that committee includes a representative from the town office employees, police department, fire department, water and sewer department, and highway department. And again, it has an equal number of management and labor employees on it. And we meet on a quarterly basis, sometimes more if necessary, and the process is that we review incidents that have occurred, we have a discussion on how to stop them or prevent them, mitigate them, and then we discuss any other items that are on the plate of the safety committee at the time. One of the items upcoming that the safety committee is going to do, and we're going to wait till warm weather, you'll know why in a second, is that we're going to do inspections of the buildings and have evacuation drills in them. And I don't think I'd be the nicest guy in the world if I did them tomorrow, so we're going to wait till probably May.
Madam Chairman?
Peter.
Isn't the facilities inspections, that's a requirement of the language, right?
Yes.
Yeah, all right, that's what I thought.
We've been doing them. They've gotten spread out. Bill Ebney used to implement them, so we fell out of schedule last year because of that. The plan is, like I said, to get them done around this May. And what we do is representatives of the safety committee and I tag along. We visit all the facilities and we go through them. We have a checklist where we inspect them for safety and health purposes.
And then they alternate chairmanships between management and staff, right?
Yes.
So semi-annually, or
well,
biannually?
If the key is if we get somebody that wants to be the chair, we alternate it. So
I believe there isn't any choice. I think it's part of the,
Well, we don't, the thing is, if you don't have anybody that volunteers to be the chair, that becomes a bit of a problem.
find ways for that volunteer to come forward.
Well,
I think that's what.
we would like it as an inclusive process.
Because I think most organizations have that same issue, and
Yeah.
at some point in time, you get a little encouragement.
Yeah, we have, during my tenure here, it has alternated.
Yeah.
You will serve.
It's like
It's just my interpretation of the statute, that's all, as it applies to the place where I work.
And then I have one other question, the safety orientation form, what is that and how, is that something that the new employees do, or what is that?
It's something that is part of, once this manual's accepted, we're gonna have new employees do it, institutionalize it. We do it right now on an informal basis, but we'll actually complete that form, and that'll be included in employees' personnel files once this is, that's not in our current safety manual.
Okay. Other comments?
Again, good job.
Thank you. Actually, the thanks goes 100% to the members of the safety committee and its chair at this point, because they did all the work on this. I got it when it was 98% completed. And as you can see, it's comprehensive and it's done.
Very good. So same thing with this manual, we'll just, you can...
Yeah, the select board is going to, I will ask the select board to accept it. This is pretty much done. The safety committee is in agreement with it. The department heads have had a look at it already. And this one's final. I probably will bring this back at the next meeting to get it approved. There's a time concern because I don't want us to fall out of compliance with the Department of Labor. I want to make sure that if we get an inspection, we have an up-to-date and comprehensive safety manual.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Let's see, 4:45, I will adjourn the workshop and we will come back after a 10-minute recess for the regular meeting. Workshop adjourned. Good afternoon, welcome to the Meredith regular Select Board meeting of March 2nd at 5 o'clock at the Meredith Community Center. At this time, please stand and join me with a Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce the board. Nathan Twart,
Good evening.
Peter Brothers, Vice Chairman,
Good evening, everyone.
and Carla Warren, Chair. Our Town Manager, Phil Warren,
Good evening.
and our Recording Clerk, Karen Landry. And I would like a motion, first item on the agenda, a motion to accept and/or correct the minutes of January 20th and February 11th.
Madam Chair, I move we accept the minutes of January 20th, 2015 and February 11th, 2015.
Madam Chairman. Second.
Thank you. Corrections?
Madam Chairman. On the February 11th, 2015, under item B, W15-4, 325 improvements, second paragraph, it says committee member Warren Hutchins, and that should be Warren Clark, and it's Clark down through the rest of it, so I think it was just that one piece. Other than that, we're fine.
Thank you.
Got it.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And the next item on our regular agenda is Town Manager's Report. Do you have one, Phil?
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll start with the good news. I received correspondence today from New Hampshire DOT, which is their Highway Maintenance District 3 proposed resurfacing program for calendar year 2015. And There are sections of the road that will be rehabilitations of secondary roads, resurfacing, and District 3 description of Tier 4 sections, which is just different ways of that they fund these items. There are, first one is they're going to reclaim sections of Barnard Ridge Road from the intersection of New Hampshire 25 Southerly to the intersection of Pleasant Street. Laconia, Meredith Center Road, 1 mile. They're going to reclaim sections of Meredith Center Road. When I say reclaim, that's the sections that they grinded up because it's in bad shape. And then on Route 106, 1 mile, they're going to do that from approximately 500 feet south of the intersection of Pease Road, northerly to the intersection of Winton, and from 250 feet south to the intersection of Tracy Way. Resurfacing, they're going to resurface, do a 1-inch paver shim with a 1.5-inch base. And this is Route 106. It's going to go from Lexington Drive northerly to the intersection of US 3, the roundabout in Meredith. Place high-strength pavement at Meredith Center Road. And they're going to reclaim 2 separate locations along the roadway, as I just mentioned. Meredith Center Road, another section that they're going to do. There's reclaimed sections that will be paved with 1.5-inch. And then they will do a 1-inch paver shim and a 1.5-inch, high-strength pavement, high-performance pavement, and that will go from the intersection of Route 106 in Laconia northerly to the intersection of New Hampshire 104 in Meredith. That's the whole length of Meredith Center. Meredith Barnard Ridge Road, 1 mile, 1-inch, high-strength pavement. Then on the Betterment Program, Meredith Neck Road, 3.9 miles, 3/4-inch paver shim. From the intersection of Pleasant Street easterly to the intersection of Cattle Landing Road.
That's good.
They got sick.
And before you continue on, Phil, I would like to add that my 3 years on this board, we have been beating this conversation nearly to death, and I'd like to personally thank Phil for your diligence and pressuring, I will say, the DOT to finally get some things done in our town, and I very much appreciate that.
Thank you. This is in no small part to continued, and I'll use lobbying by Mike Fowler, our Public Works Director, and from conversations that I have had with Jeannie Forrester in the past, our Senator, and other folks, all the way up the food chain of DOT that I'm sure sick of seeing my name on their caller ID.
Madam Chair, may I add to that, Senator Forrester was another pushing force that helped quite a bit.
Thanks.
While we're talking about DOT, they do inspection of our municipally owned bridges. The town owns 2 bridges. The bridge between the 2 parking lots over the Waukee Canal, and a bridge/culvert over a brook on Blake Road. Everything else is, it's either a box culvert or it's state-owned. Good news on both. Both of the bridges passed. One of the ironies are they're both listed on what's called a red list for bridges. You've probably heard that term, and people envision when they hear bridges on the red list that it's falling down. Well, these 2 are on the municipal red list, and they are on there because they are considered, well, actually, the parking lot access bridge is considered functionally obsolete. And the reason it's considered functionally obsolete is it won't take the largest, heaviest type of truck that runs over the road. I have a little bit of a problem with that, classifying that bridge as functionally obsolete and a red list bridge, because it was never designed to take that type of traffic. It was only designed to take cars and light trucks and an occasional camper or 2 over it, and that's why it was designed with a 15-ton weight limit. So the reason I have a concern with that is, in my opinion, I discussed this with Carla today, I fear that placing bridges of this type on a red list will deteriorate the significance of said red list. Because when I envision a red list, I envision a bridge that's falling apart, being shored up on its last legs. And I'm the first in line to say, hey, we should fund those items. But when you see something like this that says it's functionally obsolete, that just, in my mind, dilutes it. therein ends my rant. The good news is that that bridge is considered in good shape. The deck is good, the superstructure is very good, the substructure is very good. It needs to be signed, which the signs are there. It has a 15-ton weight limit, and that's signed. The inspection actually showed that from 2012 to 2014, that there's few cracks and splits in the timber planks, and it's in good shape. Other than that, like I said, the deck's good, the superstructure is very good, the substructure is very good. Now, when we get to the Blake Road over the brook, that bridge is not as good a shape as the other one. They have some concerns on the inspection, although it is rated for weights, much more than the other bridges. It's rated at what they call an E2, and it has a sign on it. And my understanding of E2 is that there's a formula that only a certain amount of trucks can go over it. What can't go over it are like overloaded trucks. When I say overloaded, I mean legally overloaded trucks, or trucks with a weight permit. If you're familiar with the area, there's not a lot of call for trucks with a weight permit to go over that. That bridge, that bridge is basically has some concerns with the wing walls, that they have some cracking and spalling in them. The deck is in good shape, the asphalt's in good shape, the curbing has some fine cracks on it. The rail is scraped with light damage, that's probably from the wing plow, that occurs occasionally. There's a post damage at the east soffit, but again, it is in decent shape. And that bridge was constructed, or structure was constructed, just so you're aware, in 1929.
Wow.
And it lists on the bridge service the percent of the trucks on it of 4%. It's not a big bridge, Peter. The maximum span's 11 feet. The width curb to curb's 21. The bridge length's only 13 feet long. It's basically, today it'd be a box culvert.
I just can't picture it.
And they did not, I would show you the picture, but because it's not in that shape that it required pictures, they're on unattached. The only time we see pictures on these reports is when there's a problem. They won't bring somebody's attention.
By picture, I'm just saying I can't visualize where it is.
No, that's what I was hoping, was that usually they get a shot of them and you can see them. So the good news is they all are within compliance.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. We discovered that some of the accepted and final planning board minutes from 2014 and 2015 were not posted to the website. I received an email, stating that, looked into it, found that to be the case. Accordingly, our staff has been asked to rectify this immediately. It should be noted that minutes are always available at the town hall in accordance with relevant laws, and that both accepted and non-accepted minutes can be requested at any time, and only accepted minutes are posted to the website. We decided a while back to do this to avoid any confusion as to whether it's the non-accepted or the accepted version that's on the website. Pursuant to 91A, draft minutes are always available. They're available within 7 days of the meeting upon request. Bridge damage claim for the Plymouth Street Bridge has been settled. Only took 3 years after the work was completed. Progressive Insurance is going to pay the town $25,000, even though the total claim is
meaningful.
Yes. And one final item: town elections are March 10th, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Town meeting is 7 p.m. at the Meredith at the Inner Lakes Junior Senior High School gymnasium.
And voting is here. I noticed in the paper today
Voting
it said
is here
at the school.
Yes, voting is at the community center, town meeting is here. And I think, yep, that's it. One other item. There are vacancies on many boards. We're looking for alternates for the Zoning Board of Adjustment. We're looking for members of the Planning Board, Conservation Commission, Village Pathways Committee, Energy Committee. Anybody that wants to volunteer for such a committee can go to the town's website and download a volunteer application. It is under the executive tab and right below town manager.
Phil, just so you know, I'm going to continue on the planning board. I won't be the selectmen's rep, but I'll be a regular member.
Oh.
So I'll make application.
Okay.
Thank you, Peter.
So there will not be a vacancy. The planning board will be full. Excellent. But we're always looking for alternates, because if someone can't make a meeting or if someone has to leave the committee, it's good to have an alternate or two on so that they can just step right in.
And it's also good from the standpoint that they get a chance to see what the workings are and get familiar with the process too, because there's a learning curve with most everything, so always welcome.
As it relates to elections, I had a discussion with the town clerk, and as you remember, there was a discussion at the last state election regarding the need to have either a majority of the select board during the whole day there or a representative. We've done some research on it, and we did a little more today. We haven't been able to nail down definitively what that is. It does state in the state constitution that a majority of the selectmen shall be at an election while it's going on. But I know that there was another statement made that said, as long as you had a representative of the board there, you were okay. This becomes a major issue, from what I'm told, during a state election and not so much during a local election. So we're going to work to nail it down, because the next couple of years are going to be big election years. But I would say at this point, you would probably want to continue with what you've done in the past, and because it could be difficult considering there's only 3 remaining members on the board. But we will get a definitive answer from the Secretary of State. One answer may be that you appoint representatives to represent the board. You may be able to do that. I'm confident that we'll have the ability to do that. So that might be what the board does.
No, election of cards okay for me.
There you go. We can do that.
Madam Chair.
We still have, we want to cover the same, I mean, the 3 of us are pretty much there all day anyway.
I'll be there
so.
all day. I was going to say. I'll
Okay,
just
as
stay
will
all
I,
day.
so Peter will be there to count.
Oh, yes. And then I usually am there for afternoon.
So we should be
So
okay.
who's going to do the first? Usually the first and the last ones. Peter usually handles the last hour. Nate, can you do the 7?
I'll do the 7 to 7.
Oh, excellent. And then Carl is you're usually there for the majority of it. So, okay. I know before it was like getting the first hour done sometimes was an issue. So we've got it covered.
Madam Chair, may I have a question for Phil?
Yep.
How are we doing on the sand and salt budget? Should I ask that nasty question?
We actually, I haven't tabulated it yet. As you can imagine, it's adding up. But we are in, I want to say, okay shape. The fuel's helping us out a little bit because the fuel costs have been down. But we've still put out a lot of material, more sand than salt this year. But it's my expectation that we have numbers for sand, salt, and what the department has used for fuel and overtime for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Visitors and residents' comments, are there any? Select board comments, are there any?
Yes, Madam Chair. I'd just like to take this time to thank you for your leadership this year, being chairman.
Thanks.
Peter, for completing 9 years. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Enjoyed working with you, and I also want to thank Hillary and Lou for the time they put into this. Is quite a commitment, and I thank everybody who's been on this board. It seems like all we do maybe sit here sometimes and make decisions, but there's a lot of things that go behind the scenes that you have to work on and read. And in the case of a couple manuals we just got here, a lot of reading, about 100 and some odd pages. So thank you all very much.
Appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Nate. Under new business, 15-8 milfoil control grant. Bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we have discussed in prior years, we have a milfoil control grant where we actually, in the state, partner up to do milfoil, exotic species program, milfoil control in the lake. This year is no different. Our plan this year is to do an herbicide treatment of $19,400. The local cost is $14,000, the grant is $4,850. Then we will do the diver suction and harvesting, where we actually go and pull it out. $8,400, which is 10 days at $840 a day. The grant's up to $2,100, our local cost is $6,300. The state actually goes out, solicits the quotes based on what they find for milfoil in the lake. And this year, it seems that there is some in the bay, but the majority of it is down in Fish Round and Thomas Cove. So proceeding with the milfoil master plan that the state puts together, we would participate in that vote. And because the state, even though your form of government allows the town manager to enter into agreements, the state has a process where they require that the board votes to authorize the town manager to sign and enter in contracts with the Department of Environmental Services to be able to proceed with this grant. So I would ask that the board take that vote tonight so that we can proceed with this process. And just so you know, we're going to hand deliver this down tomorrow to the state to make sure they get it. We usually don't get a lot of lead time on this when it comes in.
Motion?
Madam Chairman? I will make the motion that we participate and accept the grant for the DES Exotic Species Program for 2015. This is something we've done for many years. The breakdown is the two treatments for the season will be about $27,800, of which $22,950 will be the local cost, and the grant money that we need to accept is $6,950.
I'll second.
Could I offer an
Further
amendment to
discussion?
that?
Amendment to
that motion, that you authorize the town manager to execute any documents that may be necessary for this contract.
Madam Chairman, I accept that amendment.
Likewise, on the second.
Okay. And any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Phil.
Sorry, Phil, I just neglected to state it.
And in the theme of, I just made a note here, in the theme of protecting our water bodies, in a recent New Hampshire Lakes Association publication, our Lake Coast program has won a national award, and they are being recognized in Washington. And I would like to send out a huge thank you to all of our Lake Coast volunteers and ask that they continue their diligence in protecting our lakes. That's excellent news.
Nicely said.
Okay, old business, we have none. Are there any other comments to come before the board? I would, before I close my final meeting, I would like to thank Peter and Nate. You've been great mentors, and I've thoroughly enjoyed working with both of you. I've learned an awful lot in 3 years, and I want to thank the residents for supporting me, putting their trust in me. And I would like to thank the employees, each and every one of you. Huge thank you. You continuously do a great job for the town. And I'd like to thank Phil and just everybody that I've worked with. It's been a wonderful experience. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
And now I will adjourn the meeting. Meeting adjourned.